Several days passed in Zone 2. People in the town had noticed that the mansion was empty and the owner was nowhere to be seen, although it did not spark that much interest in the people, since they knew he might have gone for another adventure without telling anyone in the town. After spending 14 days in Zone 2, he finally understood why entry to this zone was blocked. It looked like someone before him might have discovered the beauty and mysterious horses around Zone 2 and didn't want any human to disturb the peace or ecology in here. He had named the horse Chuck, the one who got acquainted with him. He used to ride Chuck on his back to see the full glory of Zone 2 forest. Although except glowing horses and some beautiful landscapes and plants, Zone 2 didn't have anything else that should be kept as a mystery from other people in the town. Then one day, after traveling through Zone 2 on the back of Chuck, he noticed that the forest ended at the cliff, and on the other side, there was another part of the same forest, which looked even denser than Zone 2. Just below the cliff, there was a small flowing river. He traveled for 2 hours along the edges of the cliff to see a way to cross to the other side, but he didn't see any way to go over there. Totally confused, and he just sat at the edge of the cliff looking at the other side. His friend Chuck watched him look at the other side of the cliff and understood that his human friend wanted to go over there. Chuck started tapping his head on his shoulder as a way to tell him to ride his back once again. Even more confused, he got on top of Chuck's back. He noticed that Chuck was running in the opposite direction from the cliff. It looked like Chuck wanted to go back. Therefore, the wealthy trader just thought of going with the flow. After about 1 minute of running in the opposite direction, Chuck stopped. He turned around to face the cliff and started running very fast towards the cliff. The trader riding his back held Chuck tightly. He trusted that Chuck would not do anything stupid, so wanted to see what Chuck had in mind. Chuck was riding as fast as possible towards the cliff end, and as he got near the cliff, he jumped off. The trader was clueless and had his eyes shut. Something miraculous happened. After jumping from cliff's end, they did not fall, rather they reached to the other side of the cliff. It seemed like the wings on these horses were beneficial in such long jumps. The trader was in total surprise that he was alive, but upon reaching to the other side of the forest, he was in complete shock. The forest looked like a place in heaven. From the smell to the natural beauty, this forest was nothing like he could have ever imagined. He patted the horse's head for helping him getting on the other side and quickly got off. Something inside him was telling him that the secrets to these special horse breeds lies somewhere inside Zone 3, and maybe there is something more to unveil here. As Lily was reading along the pages of the old journal, she was more amazed seeing the perfect sketches drawn by the trader depicting 1,000 words of the story with just one image. Upon getting off the horse, the trader wasted no time and quickly went inside the forest. He could have continued riding the horse to explore Zone 3, but he couldn't risk anything serious happening to this horse, as it was his only option to return to Zone 2. Therefore, he instructed the horse to stay there until he comes back. Zone 3 was very different than other forests. The whole forest had a unique scent to it, which was very pleasant to smell. There were also strange sounds coming from deep within the forest, although these sounds were also very pleasant to the ears. Even though everything looked perfect and beautiful, the trader knew deep down that something strange was happening inside this zone. He continued traveling deeper and deeper within the forest. To his surprise, there were no wild or poisonous insects or wild animals. The forest was filled with rather herbivorous animals who all looked very beautiful. Upon traveling for hours, exploring the forest from deep within, he saw a strange light emitting from a huge overgrown tree. The tree was so big that its branches were spread 20 meters across. It was emitting a strange blue light. He walked near the tree and hesitantly touched it. Nothing happened. He sat near the tree staring at it for straight 30 minutes and even tried climbing it. Still nothing happened. He was not sure why this tree was so massive and had this strange glowing light pulsating through all its trunk, branches, and leaves. Frustrated for not finding any answer or clue to this mystery, he shouted, "What secrets are you hiding inside yourself?" I know something is wrong here and should be. That is the only reason why coming to these zones are prohibited." As he completed his sentence, he heard a very deep voice calling his name and telling him to calm down. The trader was shocked to hear this deep voice coming from inside the forest. The tone of the voice was very unnatural and didn't sound like a human. It sounded more of like an angel is communicating with him. He quickly moved 5 steps behind from the tree and asked who was calling his name. To his amazement, the strange voice answering his question was coming from the tree itself. He was utterly shocked that the tree was able to communicate with him. Now he had a plethora of questions to ask, and he continued asking the glowing tree all of his questions. It turns out that this tree had been alive for thousands of years, and it was a wish tree, meaning it could grant the person asking the wish anything they wanted, from being absolute rich to getting rid of any incurable disease. There were also no limits to how many wishes the tree could grant. One could ask the tree for anything anytime, and his wish would come true. To test it out, the trader asked the tree if it could manifest some delicious meal for him, as he was very hungry. The meal appeared before him in no time, and to his surprise, it was something that he enjoyed eating. He again asked the tree if it could manifest 10 gold bars, with each bar weighing 500 grams. His wish was fulfilled in no time. One question was troubling him now. Why did no one ever made or tried using this tree for their own advantage to get anything they want in life? Rather, these zones were prohibited, and no one even dared to step inside it. He asked his question to the tree itself. The ancient tree replied that in ancient times people lived happily and in harmony with nature. There were many wishful trees like this one spread across the planet, but soon greed and power corrupted people's head. Everyone wanted to rule and gain control over others. Therefore, this led to massive battles between different groups of people, and in between of these battles, opponents' wishful trees were cut. Soon there came a time when only a handful of trees were left. To avoid being misused by others, unfortunately, those trees had to be cut down as well. Meaning, in the end, only one wishful tree remained, and that was standing in front of the trader. The king of this region, centuries ago, made a wish to this tree that no human should be allowed to come near you within 150 to 200 kilometers area. Only those ones should be allowed to see you who are freed from any kind of greed and the desire of power. Upon hearing this, the trader was amazed. He never thought of himself as being a good person, or no one who ever knew him gave him his compliment. He smiled and said to the tree, "I understand everything now, and I have only one last wish to make. Can you please make these gold bars and food which you manifested disappear? I only made these wishes because I just wanted to test you out." His wish was granted in no time. Thereafter, the trader never looked back at the tree and returned back to his mansion, noting each incident down in his journal.